The 11th generation Civics are fantastic, but they lack in one key area, which has to be the head unit. Sure, you get a nice upgrade on the Sport Tourings, but we all know that a vast majority of Civic owners do not buy a Sport Touring. The one that comes stock on any of the lower trims is just hard to see. There's no wireless CarPlay. The settings and customization is very limited, and it's overall just okay. And to my surprise, nobody took the chance upgrading to an 11th gen Civic aftermarket radio. So a couple months ago, I went ahead and did it myself. I did a whole how-to video, how to install it, a settings overview, and it's been about 6 months now, and I've had 15,000 miles with this head unit installed, and I just wanted to do a video highlighting the ups and downs of this aftermarket radio. I'll first be going over the good, which includes any features, then the bad, and then I'll go through the settings, and I'll show you guys how to configure it for your 11th gen Civic. If you're looking for the install video, I'll have it linked in the upper right and down in the description. What you'll notice right away is that it's built off of the Sport Touring design. So it's not the same chassis or anything, but it's definitely meant to look like it. This is very nice whenever you're looking for something that looks nice and OEM. The volume knob is fantastic, and I haven't had any issues. These buttons aren't physical buttons, but they are capacitive and they fully work and everything. And there's several upgrades over the stock head unit. You get wireless CarPlay, YouTube, any Android app that you want, basically full setting customization. You can upgrade your backup camera, which we'll get to later.
Do not get this head unit.
The much bigger screen, you can see it's clearly, look at my hand. I swear the one that came stock was like this big right there, and now you have this giant screen. And overall, the build quality is pretty good. It's a glass screen, which I'm pretty sure the stock one wasn't. And then you can also obviously see this is Android based. This is Google Maps right here. This is songs if you hook up your MP3 like by Bluetooth, but nobody's gonna do that. And obviously down here, you can see I have CarLink. CarLink is the app that you're going to be using for wireless CarPlay or wireless Android Auto. I have my old phone that I have connected to the CarLink right here, and you can see that CarPlay works perfectly. This is wireless CarPlay working as intended. There's no lag or anything of that nature. It's just the regular good old CarPlay experience. The maps hasn't loaded because I have no service on this phone. There's no SIM card or anything, but I promise you all of that works fine. The GPS and everything, it's just fantastic. It works just as you would expect. You can see I have all my regular CarPlay apps, and I hope the camera can kind of portray how well the input latency is. It's just as good as wireless CarPlay gets. You see a lot of wireless CarPlay adapters on like the stock head units that are just absolute garbage. Latency is awful, and they have horrible connectivity issues. But yeah, overall, wireless CarPlay works fantastic. The only caveat is that wired CarPlay doesn't work. If that's a deal breaker for you, don't get this head unit. Now, the USB functionality works perfectly. I don't know what the issue is, but you can't do wired CarPlay. Also, you turn the car on and you can't immediately plug in your phone to the USB plug.
This is challenge from the future. The best way to put it is that you turn on your car, and if you plug in the phone within 5 seconds, it just won't connect to wireless CarPlay. If you let it go ahead and just connect after 5 seconds, then you can just plug your phone right in.
The time to connect itself is relatively good. I'll go ahead and do a little demo of that right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the car off. All right, car is off, and now I'll go ahead and turn it on. Waiting for device to connect. Connecting, and then it'll say verified, and then it loads into CarPlay. There we go. That's a pretty normal speed. If anyone has anything faster than that, if you're talking about a second difference, then no offense, but boohoo. It's nice and fast and everything. This is the 8GB RAM model. I recommend 8GB, but 6 at minimum. Do not get a 4 or 2GB RAM model. If you don't know much about that, just know that your CarPlay and your apps and everything will run like hot garbage. But yeah, wireless CarPlay, it's fantastic. I have no issues with it. GPS works fantastic. So heading back to the home screen, you'll notice a couple things. I have the settings right here, vehicle settings, equalizer, Play Store. You can have any Android app that you would like on here. So obviously I have YouTube and YouTube TV. I like to listen to sports while I'm driving, or listen to a video while I'm cruising at a normal speed with nobody around. And you'll see here, there's a little app tray right here, and you can add any app that you want. I've tried adding things like the Dolphin emulator to play Wii games. I have chess, Chrome, and then obviously the Play Store like I mentioned. I'm gonna go ahead and plug in my phone right now. Whenever you are plugged in by USB, you get USB tethering. So your Android head unit gets connected to the internet because you have wireless tethering while you're charging your phone. I'll go ahead and throw up a clip of that working right now. You can see on the drop-down menu, you have Wi-Fi, eye comfort, which makes things kind of yellowy. You have data because you can put a SIM card into this head unit if you were interested in doing that. Airplane mode, you can turn off the screen. You just have to put it back on. You can clean the memory, which just cleans the RAM. Any unallocated RAM that's getting used up, you can just clean it right there. Standby, which is sleep modes, and then reboot, which obviously restarts the screen. Here's your brightness, and then you have a screenshot tool and a settings button. I also forgot to mention the steering wheel buttons do work completely. You can see I am clicking on my up and down for the volume. The voice control button turns on Siri. There's the source button, which will start hopping through different apps and stuff if you had multiple things playing. And yeah, any kind of media controls or anything like that on the steering wheel works just as intended. But now it's time to dive into the bad. I have a 2025 Honda Civic Hybrid, and the stock camera did not work at all with this head unit. This is a major problem with any 11th gen Civic head unit. You'll notice all the promotions for all the Chinese versions, they have the backup camera working. It's because those harnesses are different from the ones in the US. But you can see I put it into reverse, and I have a backup camera, and you can see the steering wheel works whenever I turn the wheel. I just took matters into my own hands and I installed my own backup camera. It was like 25 bucks on Amazon, and the quality is substantially better than the one that came stock. I'll throw some screenshots and everything of what that looked like, but simply on the back of the head unit, there is a red wire and there is a yellow wire. The red wire is your 12 volt and the yellow wire is your female RCA, which you put your aftermarket backup camera, you plug that into. It's super easy to install. It's just that it takes time because I had to run it through my hatch. I did a write-up on how I installed the backup camera, so I'll go ahead and leave that down in the description if you're looking for a tutorial on how to do that. But yeah, now I have a 1080p backup camera, which is way better than the 480i one that comes stock or whatever. So putting it back into sport, we'll now go ahead and go over some of the settings and other things that you can expect. So as you can see, I have an equalizer. That's awesome. I have a bass enhancement. I have full subwoofer controls because this came with full RCA ports for a subwoofer and any amps that you want to add to the car. You gain a whole EQ that you didn't even have with the stock one. You can tweak with the field. As you can see, you can say co-pilot, driver, rear, all, same thing. But on the surround, it's one of my favorite things I've tweaked with. Here are my settings. I have stock speakers, so this is what sounds best. Same thing here if you want to copy my settings. I forgot to mention, that is one major upgrade of this head unit. It has built-in DSP. For those that don't know, they basically clean up any distortion, and it's almost like an amp upgrade built into the head unit itself. Anyone who drives an 11th gen Civic knows that if you don't have the Bose speakers, you start turning up that volume, the distortion gets absolutely wild. You would think I installed an amp and new speakers with how much better these speakers sound thanks to the built-in DSP, and it sounds fantastic over stock. From there, you also see we have a vehicle settings button. If you go into here, you have trip info. That is just kind of like the overall mileage and history, but there's also hidden settings up in here. You have different vehicle personalization settings that you might have thought you lost from the stock head unit, but they're all here. Door unlock mode, things like that, auto door locks. All of that is accessible on this head unit, which you would typically have to configure on the heads-up display, but now you can do it on the head unit as well. Hopping out of vehicle settings, we now have the normal settings over here. So you can see we have things like Wi-Fi. You have data usage if you put in a SIM card. And you can see there's hotspot tethering. That's where you would turn on the tethering USB. And then you have device settings over here. You can customize the various displays. So if you wanted, for whatever reason, you could have this on, and every time you freaking touch the head unit, there's an annoying beep. That's an awful setting. It comes on by stock, so go ahead and turn that off. There's an amp on or off because, like I said, you can add an aftermarket amp. Speed compensated volume. So as you get faster, it would slowly crank up the volume depending on what speed you're going at. And then general settings over here, I couldn't tell you what some of these do, but for the most part, it's pretty basic stuff. Backlight control, volume switch, default boot volume is what it's going to be whenever you turn on the car. Launch your app settings. So that's what this little square is right here. This is Google Maps. You can change that to be YouTube, Netflix, or any other Android app. Lantern settings is going to be your backlights of this thing whenever it's nighttime. So this is the white setting. You can change it to red or whatever you may be, but I have mine just set to white. It gives it a nice OEM look at night. And then you have steering wheel settings here. This is going to be an interesting one because none of these controls actually work in terms of trying to map it yourself, but I will show you guys how to get that working in a second. So if you go to factory over here, all the passwords are going to be 3368. And then here's where most of the important setup information that I was referring to earlier comes into play. So you have a touch check. If you feel like your screen is not calibrated touch-wise, you would click that and a bunch of red dots appear, and then you would click them accordingly, and then it maps it properly so that it's calibrated whenever you touch. Original car agreement. These are kind of various settings that you would want to tweak or play with. The temperature unit was Celsius by default. I changed it to Fahrenheit. Reverse parking lines is turning the wheel and the lines would adjust accordingly. Max reverse angle, I would set yours to 25. And then yeah, you can see a bunch of other information. This is a terrible little thing. If you turn that on and then adjust the AC, there's no point to me because you have the AC display right below it. Reversal volume, you turn that on and you can adjust the volume of the head unit. Whenever it's in reverse, it would lower the volume. And then I have my mileage unit and the tire pressure set to the American standards. But this is arguably the most important part. This is the CAN bus settings. car model CAN bus settings. Now you see CRV. Well, hey, you don't drive a CRV, you drive a Civic. I know. If you want your steering wheel settings to work properly on CAN box, go to 6606 Honda CRV and click 2023.360 view. That is how you get your steering wheel's buttons to work accordingly, because the head unit itself needs to know what foundation of car that it's going to be translating into input. But Challenge, isn't there Civic settings? Yes, there are, but I'm telling you right now, this is the only one that I got working for the steering wheel buttons. This is also a critical setting for anyone that's going to be adding their own aftermarket backup camera. You're going to change your video format from TVI to AHD format, and then you'll scroll down here and you'll see two options. Single 360, turn that off. Switch backup camera, it's Enter 360 by default, at least whenever I bought it. Switch that to default. Leaving the factory settings, we go over to user and you'll see various Android settings. It just makes it easier for like signing in the Play Store or YouTube, or so you have your date and time. You can go ahead and configure that because by stock it's set to like a whole different time zone. So this is where you would change that. Accessibility if you need it. Developer options, which is same thing, 3368. And then in here it's just any developer options for Android, and then about devices. Also, as you can see, the resolution is 2000 by 1200, which is extremely nice. It looks fantastic with any video or anything that you're trying to watch, and even CarPlay looked fantastic if you guys couldn't tell. So like I said, go ahead and change your CAN bus, change your backup camera settings that I went over. From there, you would obviously tweak your date and time or anything like that if they're out of sync. But overall, setting up the head unit itself is super easy and simple. That's kind of the point of this video. I wanted to go over everything about this head unit, how my experience has been and everything like that. It has been an incredible experience. I absolutely recommend this for anybody. Like I said, I'll have the head unit linked down below, as well as my install video for actually taking apart the dash and everything, which isn't as bad as you would think. And same thing for the backup camera. So if you're looking for an OEM look, wireless CarPlay, bigger screen, brighter screen, Play Store, Chrome, YouTube TV, anything like that, this head unit is perfect for you. If you're looking to add any aftermarket amps, this has plenty of RCA controls on the back and a dedicated sub RCA as well, which a lot of head units don't have. Overall, I would absolutely recommend this for anybody looking for a nice upgrade to their 11th gen Civic. I hope you guys appreciate this video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thank you all for watching. Have a good one.